There's a truth about connection that most people never really grasp. A woman who has lived enough life, who has built a career, survived heartbreak, raised kids, or simply navigated the chaos of existing in this world for a few decades, doesn't respond to the same things that once captivated her younger self. She's heard the smooth lines, she's received the flowers, she's sat across from men who knew exactly what to say, but couldn't follow through when it mattered. At some point, she stopped believing in performances and started paying attention to something much more honest: presence. What actually reaches her now isn't what you say, it's how you make her feel when no words are being spoken at all. It's the quiet moments, the unspoken gestures, the way your body communicates what your mouth never could. Physical touch, when it's done with awareness and intention, bypasses every defense mechanism she's built. It speaks directly to the part of her that still wants to trust, still wants to soften, still wants to believe that someone can handle her without needing her to shrink or perform. Researchers have spent years studying how humans communicate through touch. One study out of DePaul University found that people can accurately identify specific emotions like compassion, gratitude, and even love just by the way someone touches their arm. No eye contact, no verbal cues, just touch. The accuracy rate was startlingly high, well above what random chance would allow. That tells us something important. Our bodies are far more articulate than we give them credit for. And for a woman who has been disappointed by empty words more times than she cares to count, that kind of honest communication is everything. She doesn't need another person telling her she's beautiful. She needs someone who can show her she's safe. That's the shift. That's what maturity teaches you. Safety becomes more attractive than excitement. Consistency becomes more valuable than novelty. And the way a man touches her, the small, barely noticeable gestures he makes without thinking, reveal more about his character than anything he could ever rehearse. So let's talk about the specific ways touch can build that kind of connection. Not manipulative tricks or rehearsed moves, but genuine expressions of attention and care that a woman who knows herself will recognize immediately. The first thing to understand is the power of a hand placed gently on her lower back. This isn't about being possessive or controlling. It's about guidance. Imagine walking into a crowded restaurant together. There's noise, movement, people brushing past. You place your hand on the small of her back as you navigate through the room. It's a simple gesture, but it does something profound. The lower back is rich with nerve endings that connect directly to the brain's emotional centers. A warm, steady hand there creates a visceral sense of being looked after. Not because she can't walk through a door on her own, but because for that moment, she doesn't have to. A woman who has spent years being the one everyone else leans on will feel that gesture in ways she might not even articulate. It's not about dependence, it's about relief. Relief from always having to lead, always having to be alert, always having to manage everything herself. When your hand rests on her back with quiet confidence, her nervous system registers it as comfort. And comfort, real comfort, is rare enough to be precious. Another gesture that carries more weight than it seems is the way you hold her hand. Not just intertwining fingers while walking, though that's nice too. I'm talking about the moment when you take her hand in both of yours. Maybe she's telling you about something that's been weighing on her. Maybe you're sitting together in a quiet moment. You take her hand and wrap both of yours around it. That dual-sided contact does something interesting to the brain. It signals complete attention. There's a therapeutic technique called bilateral stimulation that works similarly, and it's used to help people process difficult emotions. When you hold her hand with both of yours, you're creating a symmetrical, grounding presence that tells her brain she has your full focus. For someone who is sat across from distracted partners, from people who were physically present but emotionally absent, that kind of undivided attention is magnetic. She's not used to it. She's used to competing with phones, with work stress, with whatever else seemed more urgent. When you give her both hands, both eyes, and your full presence, you're offering something she may have stopped expecting from people. Then there's the forehead touch. This one requires courage because it's deeply intimate without being sexual. When you gently press your forehead against hers, eyes closing naturally, breathing slowing down, you're entering a space of shared vulnerability. You can't do this from a distance. You can't rush it. You have to be willing to stop, to be still, to let the moment exist without filling it with noise. Relationship researchers talk about something called attunement, which is the ability to sync up emotionally with another person. The forehead touch is one of the purest expressions of that. It says, I'm here, right here, not thinking about the next thing, just here with you. A woman who has built walls to protect herself from people who weren't ready to meet her where she is will feel that gesture as an invitation. Not a demand, but a quiet knock on a door she thought she'd locked for good. And if she opens it, even slightly, you've reached something real. There's another touch that sits right at the intersection of trust and attraction, and that's the back of the neck. The nape of the neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the body. We can't see it. We can't protect it easily. When someone touches you there, your brain immediately evaluates whether that person is safe. If the answer is yes, the response is powerful. A gentle hand on the back of her neck, maybe while you're sitting close or leaning in to say something, creates a spike in both trust and chemistry at the same time. That combination is rare. But here's the key. This only works after trust has already started to form. You can't touch someone's neck on a first meeting and expect it to land well. Timing matters. Context matters. A mature woman will immediately sense if you're trying to skip steps, and she'll shut it down without hesitation. But when the moment is right, when you've already established a foundation of respect and connection, that touch becomes an accelerant. It deepens what's already there. One of the most underrated gestures is something so subtle that most people overlook it entirely. It's the slow movement of your thumb across her skin while you're holding her hand or resting your hand on her arm. You're not announcing it. You're not making it obvious. It's just a gentle, rhythmic stroke that happens almost absent-mindedly while you're talking or sitting together. There's a specific type of nerve fiber in human skin that responds to this exact kind of slow, light touch. These nerves send signals directly to the parts of the brain responsible for emotional bonding and social connection. What makes this so effective is that it's unconscious. She might not even realize you're doing it at first, but her body absolutely registers it. Her brain starts associating your presence with calm, with warmth, with safety. And because it seems effortless on your part, it doesn't feel like a performance. It feels like that's just who you are. That's how you naturally show affection. And for a woman who has dealt with calculated gestures and performative romance, that authenticity is everything. There's also something quietly powerful about the act of pulling her closer without saying anything. Maybe you're sitting together and you reach over, wrapping your arm around her and gently closing the distance between you. No words, no explanation, just movement. This works because it mirrors a concept in psychology called proximity seeking, which is a core behavior in securely attached relationships. When you pull her close just because you want her near, not because you're initiating something else, it communicates a simple truth. The space between us felt like too much. For a woman who has spent years feeling like she had to earn affection, like closeness was conditional on how much she gave or how little she asked for, that unprompted pull is revelatory. It tells her she's wanted simply for being there. Not for what she does, not for what she provides, just for existing next to you. That realization can crack open something she's been protecting for a very long time. And then there's the long hug. Not the polite 2-second greeting hug, not the stiff obligatory embrace, a real full contact, unhurried hug that lasts long enough for both of you to actually feel it. Research shows that hugs lasting at least 20 seconds trigger a significant release of oxytocin while lowering cortisol, the stress hormone. This means a long hug doesn't just feel nice, it literally calms her nervous system. Her heart rate slows. Her breathing deepens. Her body shifts out of fight or flight mode and into a state where connection becomes possible. Therapists actually prescribe extended hugging to couples who are struggling because it rebuilds trust at a biological level. It's not symbolic, it's physiological. And for a woman who has carried stress, responsibility, and emotional weight for years, often without anyone noticing, being held like that is transformative. Not because it fixes anything, but because for those 20 or 30 seconds, she doesn't have to hold herself together. She can let go. She can soften. She can just be held. That permission to stop being strong, even briefly, is one of the most loving things you can offer someone. And a woman who feels that will remember it. She'll remember you, not because you impressed her, but because you gave her space to rest. Here's what ties all of this together. None of these gestures are about control. None of them are about proving anything. They're about presence. They're about being aware enough to notice what she needs and secure enough to offer it without making it about you. A mature woman has seen enough of the world to recognize the difference between a man who touches her because he wants something and a man who touches her because he sees her. She's not looking for grand gestures or elaborate displays. She's looking for the small, consistent, honest moments that prove you're paying attention, that you're not performing, that you're actually there. And when she finds that, when she feels it in the way you guide her through a room, hold her hand with both of yours, press your forehead to hers, rest your hand on the back of her neck, stroke your thumb across her skin, pull her close without asking, or hold her long enough for her to exhale. She doesn't just feel attraction. She feels something much deeper. She feels seen. She feels safe. And that's what makes her choose you. Not once, but over and over again. Because at the end of the day, love for a woman who knows herself isn't about fireworks. It's about finding someone she doesn't have to defend herself against. Someone she can be soft with. Someone who understands that the most powerful thing he can offer isn't his words, it's his presence. And that presence, communicated through the simplest, most honest touches, is what stays with her long after everything else fades.